Are you thinking about moving to the greater Portland, Maine area? Maybe you got relocated for work, or you're just really excited for the outdoor living experience. Well, either way, in this video, we're going to cover the pros and cons about living either north or south of Portland. And we're going to get right into it, starting off with the north. So I want to jump in with the pros of living north of Portland, and that's going to be the lower cost of living. Typically, we see houses are a little bit cheaper the further north you go up the 295 and I-95 corridor. The next advantage of being more north is going to be the space. You know, you're not going to be on top of your neighbors. You're not going to have the subdivisions that you'd see maybe in Portland. And so that's a huge pro. Now, yes, you can get that in both regions, north and south, but you start seeing a little bit larger pieces of property the further north you get. The third pro is the quieter lifestyle. As you get more north, and I'm thinking more north than Brunswick, you get into the communities that are less populated. There's less going on. There's not really a downtown Main Street anywhere. There's not a really big business section. So it's just a lot quieter lifestyle, which means you are going to have to commute into, these other regions. But again, it's a quieter lifestyle. And that leads us right into the cons. Like I just said, the con of living north is going to be the longer commutes. So for frame of reference, Brunswick's like 35, 40 minutes, depending on how fast you drive, down into Portland. I made that commute when I got out of college. I was living in Topsom at the time with my wife, and I was working in Westbrook. So I had to take 295 all the way down into Portland and then take one of the roads out into Westbrook. So, that commute did get long after a while, but the cost of living was cheaper to live up there instead of renting in Portland, right? Pros and cons. Another con is going to be the fewer amenities, especially when you get off of 295 and you get into these smaller towns. You're going to have less amenities. There's not going to be as much, shopping plazas and convenience stores and, grocery stores, gas stations. They become more and more limited the further you get off of the 295 corridor and the further you get outside of Brunswick. And finally, it's the limited job opportunities. So again, like I said, I was living in Topsom and I was commuting it down into Westbrook outside of Portland for a job. And then the next job I got was in Lewiston, and I was commuting from Topsom to Lewiston. So and even that commute was 30 minutes, I believe. So the opportunities are less the further outside of Portland you get. There are jobs, there are businesses that you can work at in a place like Brunswick or Freeport, but the opportunities are just less than if you lived in the city. Next, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of living south of Portland. Now, again, there's some caveats to all these. We have a very curved state, so north, south, all very different in terms of, what I'm about to go over. But what I would say as a pro for living south of Portland are the more amenities. I feel like most of the cities, little towns south of Portland, especially from like Portland to Biddeford, Saco, you're going to have it's the Route 1 kind of connects them all. And there's just a bunch of little shops. There's restaurants, there's dining. There's all these things that you can do. And they have like this community downtown feel. Like I said, you don't really have that as you go north. So I think that's a huge pro. Another pro of living south of Portland is going to be closeness to the ocean, specifically beaches. Well, yes, a lot of Maine has coastline, especially like the mid-coast, which is even northeast of Brunswick. It doesn't have as many beaches. Now, when you think beaches in Maine, you think south of Portland. You think really from Scarborough, where like Higgins and Pine Point is, all the way down to Wells, Ogunquit. And this is kind of where we have all the tourists come in the summer. It's where a huge portion of the short-term rentals are. People trying to get to the beach. So if that's huge for you and you are a beach bum or just love to go look for seashells and sea glass, living south of Portland is a great option. Final pro of living south of Portland is the more job opportunities. And so this is just because we're closer to, I would say, the rest of the country. So if you're south of Portland, now you have trucking companies, you can in theory commute to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, or you can commute all the way into Boston. Now that would be far, it's about 2 hours. I have a friend that he commutes into Boston for 3 nights at a hospital and then drives home. It's doable. Is it enjoyable? Not really, but the opportunities for jobs are greater if you live south of Portland. But like all good things, there are cons to living south of Portland. Number one that jumps right out of me is the higher cost of living. Now, again, Greater Portland is expensive, even north as you get up into like really, Yarmouth, Cumberland, Falmouth. But really, if you're thinking south of Portland, it's just more expensive. You have South Portland, Cape Elizabeth, Scarborough. Those are all really expensive towns, especially if you try to get on the ocean side of Route 1. And even if you get all the way down to Kennebunk's a really expensive place to live. The next con that you have to deal with living south of Portland is how crowded it is. Again, we're closer to Boston. So it's kind of like, people only worked so far up as the initial settlers of Maine, and they kind of stopped as they got to Portland, right? So you have so there's more population in the Portland to New Hampshire border. And also, like I said, in the summer, we have lots of tourists that come for our beaches, and those are in southern Maine, or south of Portland. So those two kind of reasons are why we have more population, and it's more crowded as you get south of Portland. And again, the last con, and these are kind of like just the opposites of the north, is there's less land. Again, because there's more people, there's less kind of space around your house and property, less privacy. Now, yes, as you get off of the 95 corridor and you kind of go inland, you're going to find places with large pieces of land. I grew up in Limerick on 10 acres, but I wouldn't consider that south of Portland. It's kind of like west. My point being is if you're living in that kind of 95 corridor or on Route 1, you're going to be living in a more densely populated area and you're going to have less space. Now, maybe that's fine for you, but it's just something you should know about. Deciding whether to live north or south of Portland really comes down to your lifestyle choices. If you kind of want that quieter, more space, and cost of living is really important to you, I would consider north. But if you really want to be in those beaches, you want to have ample job opportunity, and you kind of like that community feel, maybe south's right for you. When you're trying to make that decision north or south of Portland, it's really just important that you remember to take in consideration your budget, your commute to work, and what amenities are really important. If you're thinking about buying or selling real estate, be sure to subscribe to this channel. We're covering all the real estate news and market updates for the greater Portland area, helping you make a better informed decision and understand what you're getting into when you make the move and when the time is right to make that next real estate move, either buying or selling. My team and I would love to be your real estate resource of choice. Be sure to reach out at info@theportlandreal.com. Some of my team will get back to you and we'll have a discussion on if our team would be a great fit for you. And if you're on the fence of trying to decide if Portland's even the area you want to move to, I put together a video of my top 10 reasons to move to Portland, Maine. As someone that's lived here for 30 years, I think I have a good idea of what someone relocating to the area would be interested in. Be sure to go over, watch this video, and let me know in the comments if you found it valuable. Until the next one, have a good one.